BeastNet is brought to you by James Safety Services in partnership with OCR Buddy and OCR Strong. Here we discuss all things OCR and fitness related. Welcome to BeastNet.
Hey everybody, it's Mike with BeastNet, and today I got with me Julie Wolff. Julie, remind everyone who you are. It's been a little bit since we've talked.
It has. So I am co-owner and founder of the Phoenix Race Obstacle Course Racing Company, and we're based out of North Georgia, just south of Chattanooga.
Yes. So, and what kind of races? It's been a while since I know you had a few, and you keep growing. So, since I've been talking to you, I mean, you've grown quite a bit since I think the first time I talked to you. So, what's the next race you have?
Our first race of the season is one that is a fundraiser for the Alabama Marine Foundation. It's April 1st. It's the Tuscaloosa Gauntlet.
Mhm.
So it's not a Phoenix race, but it is going to be laid out and designed by us. Jason will lay out and design the course, and then I'll race direct. So it's going to be a pretty cool event, and it's a fundraiser from the Marine Foundation. So how could we not be involved?
Yeah, which is awesome. I mean, it's really fun to do that fundraiser stuff sometimes, just to give back and everything else, which is awesome.
Right.
So I know you've got that one coming up first, and I mean, how many races does Phoenix do now?
We have 7 this year. We dropped Mississippi. It just was not wasn't the greatest location, to be honest with you. Every time we were there, something was broken into, and we were just like, you know what, we're not coming back here. So we have the Tuscaloosa Gauntlet, which is in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, April 1st. April 29th, we have the Phoenix, Georgia, which is in Calhoun, Georgia. June 3rd is at Black Swamp in Ohio. August 12th is Murder Creek in Bruton, Alabama. And September 9th is the Chattanooga Mud Run, which is coming back for the 14th year. We're going to do it a little bit different this year. We're going to do a lot of things a little bit different, but we can talk about that. And then September 23rd is the Phoenix Hybrid event at the Black Swamp. And October 21st, I think, is the Kentucky Showdown in just east of Louisville.
Nice. See that, and it's amazing to hear about all that. I've talked to a few people, like that's one of my biggest issues I have, like up here in the Northwest. That's like more races than we get in a year. So,
Wow.
We don't get a whole lot up here, and that's one of my biggest issues. It's one of those things, like I mentioned a few people. I mean, if everything goes right, hopefully I will be moving out of the Northwest. But and one of the reasons I want a place where I can do more than that, where we have like 4 months out of the year and that's it. And you have to ram everything in. So it's really cool to hear like other types of races too, where we just get pretty much a couple of the small, locals, and then mainly just the big guys.
Yeah.
And the small local ones, you end up with so much more innovative, and that's one of the things, like I see your posts and I see people posting about your races, and I'm like, I want to do that. I want to play on those obstacles. Forget monkey bars. I want that thing. What's that? And that's what's so cool is, I mean, I see a lot of the things that you guys come up with, for the ideas for your obstacles. And I'm like, oh, so any listeners who have never done on to go to Phoenix Race, look at some of the obstacles they come up with, and there's some really cool, innovative ideas there that it's just like, it's different. And that's what we want. We want that kind of, innovative, crazy idea of, hey, we've done monkey bars a million times. We've done, this obstacle over and over again. And a lot of the other races, they got the cookie cutter, like, hey, I can go to here in Seattle and do one race and fly to New Jersey, and it's the exact same race, just on a different course.
Very much so. Yeah, and that's one of the things we wanted to do is just be different. I mean, we were obstacle course racers, still are, but we don't get to race as much as we did. But we were avid obstacle course racers leading up to creating our own event, and we wanted to take something that take the parts we loved about other brands, and then take the parts that we hated and make sure that we had a good mix and didn't include those things that we hated. Like, I hate waiting in line. So typically we will always have a packet pickup the day before so that it disperses out the pickup madness. Jason is very innovative about his obstacle design. If you wanted to throw a spear at every event you went to, then you're going to sign up for a Spartan race. So, and we mix our course up. Our rig is very versatile. So you may see it as a 60-foot long rig with monkey bars, rings, a lache, and a rope. And then see it at the very next race 4 weeks later with completely different. You may have a pipe traverse and then a foothold rope, or long rings for your feet, or a cargo net. I mean, he mixes it up every time so that you're not running the exact same race. Even if it's the same venue every year, it won't be the exact same event, because we hated that. I mean, we've been to so many events at the horse park in Atlanta, and it's like, it's always the same course. It's always the same thing. And, we like to mix it up for our racers and give them something a little fresh. So.
Which is what's amazing. That's, like I said, that's what I love. I love the local races because you get random weird things that just popped up in your brain, and you're not thinking about, oh, how can I mass produce this to put it on every single course we're going to do for the year? It's like, how can I make this so much fun for the people that are going to show up tomorrow, going to show up at this race? And all of a sudden you got something, you come around a corner, and in your brain you're looking at like, what is that? And I've been to a few races. We've had a few up here, and I've heard such amazing things. That's one thing I'm looking forward to, that, if everything goes right and I do move out of Washington, and I'll be a lot closer to your races, and I'm like, I can go to some Phoenix races now.
Yay.
So I can go check those out. That's one of the things. I mean, most people know I'm looking at Texas is where we're looking at going. So It's going to be one of those things that, and I've looked at the schedule down there, and like, I've gotten into triathlons, and I'm doing a lot of triathlons, and I'm like, I have the choice of 4 different Ironmans.
Yeah.
One of them that starts in the town that I want to move to, So it's
Wow.
like, but that's a full Ironman. I don't think I'm ready for that. But but it's so cool to look at that and like see all of a sudden, look at the schedule and see all these other races and see like Phoenix races. I mean, I'm like 3 hours away from driving to some of your venues, and I'm like, I've driven farther than that for smaller races. So I mean, it's just like, it's so cool. That's one of the biggest things, and it sounds really bad, but that's the biggest part I'm excited about. Being able
Right.
to get out to these, I've talked to some of you people so many times, and I'm like, I want to do it. And it's like, but traveling out there sometimes just doesn't work out. And it's, now I'm like, it'll be a lot closer, and I can just take a weekend and drive down there and, have so much fun.
Absolutely. And I love that you referred to us as a local race, because I got on my soapbox yesterday and I'm still a little salty about it. So I apologize ahead of time, but and I won't call these guys out because they don't know me. They've never stepped foot at one of our events, but there was a big long list of local OCRs, support your local OCRs. And we weren't on it. And so I, commented, I was like, hey guys, here's our dates. They're like, yeah, you're not considered a local OCR, you're a series. And I even kind of made a post about it, not as a backlash to them, but just saying, hey, so you don't think we're a local race? Well, here's our staff. It's me and Jason. You want to know where our big fancy office is? It's right here in our living room, my desk. And I think my friend Russ at OCR Buddy put it best when he said, we are a conglomerate of small local races owned by the same company, and that's what we are. We don't have a truck driver that hauls our trailers from one venue to another. We have an F-350. Yeah, that's it. We have an F-350 that we hook up to our trailer and we haul it there, and we build it ourselves. And we never really intended to be scattered all over the place and grow in the manner that we did. But the reason that we grew in that way was we were working with, we're in Ohio because the Black Swamp was going out of business. They were ready to retire. And everybody loved that course. They loved Sandy and Troy. They loved what they had built up there. And we didn't want to see it end. So that's why we bought that event. to keep the sport going. And then, the South Alabama Murder Creek race, that's in Bruton, Alabama. It's a town of 6,000 people. So when five to 700 runners come into town slinging mud everywhere, they love it. The town actually is the sponsor. The main title sponsor for that event is the city itself, because they want that economic impact. They want every one of their restaurants packed. They want their hotel full. And we don't host in these larger cities. Like, people are like, why don't you come to Nashville? Why don't you come to Atlanta? Well, Atlanta doesn't care that we're there. They're not going to know that we're there. But when we go to Bruton, Alabama, or Oak Harbor, Ohio, or Shelbyville, Kentucky, actually it's Simpsonville, Kentucky. But when we're in those small towns, Calhoun, Georgia, they know it. They feel it. They're like, wow, we saw this little bump. We had, 300, 400, 500 extra people in town, and it is encouraging to the community, and it helps the community as a whole. And that in turn, they're always kind to our racers, and then everybody has a good experience.
Yeah.
I guess it just is a very frustrating situation for us to be looked at in the same category as Savage, Spartan Terrain Race, Rugged Maniac, that realm of events, because that's not us.
Yeah.
It's absolutely not us. We don't have a crew. We have Jason and myself and 3 kids. You might get your packet pickup might be one of our kids. Our weed eating crew is my son. So, we definitely have, and people that have been to our races know, and they know that we have a local race vibe. I do my very best to thank every racer that crosses the finish line. Sometimes I don't get to, because I also respond to any problems or injuries, even if it's just a Band-Aid. I'll also try to check on those folks. So I'm not always right there, but we definitely are a local small OCR event.
Well, and I think it's one of those things, they see it as like a series because you have multiples. But like you said, I mean, how many of those were ones that really, in one way or another, you were the savior that stepped in? Like you mentioned, that the race was going to go. I mean, like, it was a race that was existing and going, and people loved it. And then the owners, or whoever was running it's like, I can't do this anymore. I need to step out. And you stepped in and said, hey, everyone loves this. We want to help. We're going to step in and take it over. And it wasn't like a lot of things where you look at, like, some of the bigger races where Spartan stepped in and took over Tough Mudder, or Spartan stepped in. That was a business decision.
Mm-hmm.
Where in a lot of the ones where you see with you, it's not necessarily a business decision. It's more of
it might be a bad business decision.
Yes. I love the sport, and I want to see the sport continue. So I'm going to step in and help save the sport in this area. And I wish we had more people like that up here in the Northwest, because I've watched really good ones that I've gone to and been like, this is so much fun. And then the next year they're just gone.
Well, and a lot of that is the community has to be there behind you, supporting you. Not just the communities that you host in, but also the racing community. I think that some people might look at our events and be like, oh, they're a Spartan or a Savage or a big brand, and we're not. I mean, you can tell that by looking at our prices. Our races are $59 right now.
Yeah.
So, and you still get a killer medal. You still get a killer T-shirt, in my opinion, much better than the bigger brands. But I'm a little biased because I designed them. So, but
I agree with you.
That part gets frustrating, but we're definitely not a big box brand for sure. And we've got a lot of cool things coming up this year. The Chattanooga, I'll back up to Ohio. So our Ohio event in June is going to be a Scouts event. So I'm told it's the Scouts. It's not the Boy Scouts. it's the Scouts, because there are boys and girls both in them. And so this event will actually be a fundraiser for those troops up there. And the reason we decided to do that is 2 weeks before our event there, we don't know a lot of people in Ohio. We do now, but we didn't. And the local troop called us and said, "Hey, do you need some volunteers?" And man, they showed up with like 30 people the morning of the race, and that is just a godsend for us. I mean, it was amazing. So we said, "Hey, you guys are awesome. Can we have you back out?" And so then we started talking about ways they could help promote the event. And they're tackling so much stuff. They're actually going to feed all the racers, and just they've been an integral part of making that event come together. And so this will be a fundraiser to support their troop. So we're very excited about that, because those kids were awesome and they worked their tail off. And they're going to invite the entire state of Ohio, the Scouts, to come run it.
Wow.
And we're going to invite the kids out to do it at basically our t-shirt, medal, and insurance costs. Is what they'll fork up, or they can spend an hour volunteering and race for free. So, we're really excited to have those kids out at the Black Swamp. We love the Black Swamp. We love going up there. We love the town. We love Sandy and Troy. They are just very close friends of ours. And all the groups that come out to that event, CLE OCR has been a huge supporter. And we just really look forward to seeing that group of folks. So that's going to be our June event there. It'll be our traditional 5K, which is the Black Swamp obstacles that are permanent there, combined with our obstacles. And then in September, we're going back to the Black Swamp, but we felt like we needed to mix it up a little bit, because June to September is not a huge gap in there. So, but we wanted to get to Ohio twice. So we're going to have a hybrid event. There's not a whole lot of information that I'm allowed to discuss about it just yet, but it's going to be, Jason is very good at building things or obstacles and challenges that, if you really think about it, when you're approaching the obstacle, there's an easy way to do it. And then there's a hard as hell way to do it. So it's going to be a lot of that kind of thought process, getting into it. Jason is infamous for Dig Deep, which is an obstacle we have that is so freaking simple. Literally, I think it costs us $300 in plywood or lumber to build. And then we just take our slam balls with us, and it's a slam ball toss. And it took more bands this year than our rig. And it's not a hard obstacle if you just think about the right way to do it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't. They don't think about the right way to do it. By the time they figure it out, they're gassed. So, that's one kind of example. Probably a little bit more type of that kind of thing. Some more strength. More strength in this one. I think that a lot of the OCRs have gone grip strength, and this will have a lot of more brute strength to it. So that's Ohio. Chattanooga, we're going to take it back to its roots. So it started as a fundraiser for the Habitat for Humanity, and it got too big for them. And that's when we came in and started helping and took over the event. And while Chattanooga loves the event, every year in Chattanooga I hear more mud, more mud, more mud. And we've seen a decline in the kids coming out. So we're going to go back to mud. I mean, Chattanooga is going to be a mud fest. It is not going to be a qualifier for us this year because it's so muddy. Our typical OCRs are not that muddy. So we're going to add a lot more mud. We're going to drop that minimum age down to 7 years old. So if, we can get more families out, and then it's going to be a fundraiser for Habitat for Humanity again. And, while it's not your qualifying event and your hard as hell OCR, I'm so excited about that event just to see these kids get out there and get muddy.
And those sometimes are the funnest ones. I've done a few like that, where I've done the qualifying where you're really going for it, you're pushing hard, and then been on the ones that are just a mud slug fest, and you're just going and you're just having fun with it. And I mean, it's one of those ones where you're like, you have to make sure your shoes are tied tight so that you're not, losing them. and all that. Now, I've done both, and they both have their merits. It's one of those. I do love a good slugfest occasionally, not every race, but
Right.
occasionally, and it's one of those, because I have been on some of the ones where it's just, I mean, it's so much mud, and after a while you're like, okay, this is ridiculous,
Yeah.
and then been on the other ones where there's, it's a mud run, but there was none. It was like one of the big ones I did last year, where it wasn't until the last like 100 feet of the race, all of a sudden you hit mud, and then it's like, okay, so I've been through this whole thing for 13 miles and hadn't like stepped in water like twice. And now at the last 100 feet, you want me to like end the race like coated in mud. And I'm like, yeah, no,
Mud.
yeah. It's like this just
Yeah.
no. Yeah.
And that event has a 150-foot water slide in it. And
Oh,
it has since the beginning, since the very first time. And when we came in, that's not a typical OCR type thing, but we wanted to keep it because we try to be very true to the roots of the event
mhm.
that we've taken over. We don't like to change a tremendous amount because people came out to it because they liked the event as it was. Just sometimes the folks, couldn't really keep producing it. I think a lot of times people don't understand what all goes into hosting one of these events. It's not as simple as designing a course and having people come out and run it.
No, it's not. I haven't done the entire thing myself, but I've been around people and helped people like figure out some of the stuff. And I mean, just that much where I'm watching it going, okay, it's not, you think it's just you go out there, throw a couple obstacles up and woohoo, go have fun.
Mhm.
There's so much more, on the back end that people don't see, all the administrative things you have to do, everything like that, and then if something goes wrong, everything you have to figure out. I mean, yeah, it sounds so challenging and everything else, but at the same time sounds like completely exhausting.
It is. But I love it. I mean, obviously we wouldn't still do it. I mean, this is going to be our third season
Mhm.
as the Phoenix race, and eventually it's hopefully something that will take off and do well for us. Right now we're treading water just like every other company in the world, but we're still in the pond at least. So you can't complain there.
Which is something to be said, because I mean, that's one thing, a lot of people don't completely forget too. I mean, 2020 and 2021 wiped out a lot
Mhm.
of the smaller local races, and even some of the ones that weren't even small local, some of the bigger, that had got into, were not up at the Spartan level, but they were getting there
Yeah.
and have knocked them out. I mean, how many of you heard about that, have gone the wayside of ones that you were like, oh, that one's going to be around for a bit, and all of a sudden, oh nope, sorry, they're not.
Yeah, they're gone.
They're
And
gone, and
it
all of a sudden, oh
it
yeah,
breaks my heart. I mean,
yes,
I love the sport as a whole, minus about 4 people, if that makes sense.
it does. No, it does. It does.
So, it kills me that like Bone Frog. I mean, man, I love their events. I absolutely loved Bone Frog events. They were different. They had cool venues. I mean, who doesn't want to run an obstacle course race inside a NASCAR track?
Mhm.
And that was tough for me to see them go. I'd really hope they'd be back this year.
Yeah, and that's one that it sucks for me, because I'm watching these ones thinking, okay, I'm gonna hopefully be on the East Coast, where close to the East Coast, where I can go and finally do these, and then all of a sudden, bye bye. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
you know,
it's been a
because
tough year, and there were a lot more races in 2019. Well, we were hosting in 2019, but not under the Phoenix brand. We were under all the other, small brands. And we weren't in ownership. We were contractors. But when 2020 happened and everybody was scared to freaking do anything, and they were canceling all their races left and right, I was like, no, this is bullcrap. People need this. I'm going to host these events. If you don't want to be part of it, cool. But this is how Phoenix was born, is because
out of the ashes.
people needed it. Yeah, I mean, how depressed did people get in 2020?
I was just talking to someone earlier today about the fact that like for 2020, we all dealt with it differently. For me, it was one of those just my new normal came running. And a lot of people like, what was your motivation? Because if I didn't do something, I was going to go out of my mind.
Mhm.
Because otherwise I couldn't go, to a restaurant. I couldn't go see my friends. I couldn't go do all this stuff. So if I could go run, it gave me that something to do. But then all the races that I want to do, I couldn't run. So I'm just running on my own and started doing a lot of the virtuals is what kept me going. But
Yeah.
there's so many races that didn't come out the other side. I sit there and I look at my wall. I've got a wall downstairs in my gym that I don't know how many. There's got to be over 200, 300 freaking medals hanging on my wall from just the last 10 years. And I sit there and I look through it and I see all the ones that are gone.
Yeah.
Like I've got a medal that I will never be able to get again because they're gone. And some that, like what was the other one? Not Battle Frog or whatever the other one
Battle
was.
frog. Hmm.
I never got to do it. I signed up for it. I broke my foot, so my kid ran for me. And then they like 2 months later they went, they went out. And it's like
Yeah.
some of those where it's like, where they had cool ideas and way of doing it. And to watch them going as an OCR racer, it's like it's less chances for me to do what I want to do.
Hmm.
So I mean, if we can, people can help support, that's why me and Dawn have always been a huge, huge support local,
Yeah.
whether it's your local here and where we live in, Washington, if you're in Ohio, if you're in wherever, support your local races because, the big box companies, they come around once a year,
Yep.
maybe twice if you're lucky. For us, it's once a year, literally like 2 weekends apart.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
there's nothing wrong.
no,
We need Spartan. The
we do,
industry needs Spartan. The industry needs Tough Mudder. We need
yes,
those bigger name brands
we
because
do,
they have the marketing budget that I don't have.
yes, they do.
And they can hit the masses that I can't hit. So when somebody says, "Oh, is it kind of like a Spartan event?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's what it is."
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. You know, we need those. We need
We
it
do.
all.
We
That
need all of them, the
and
big and the
Spartan.
little.
Yeah, and Spartan has to recognize, and OCRWC has to recognize. I think they have. I mean, they do
Yeah.
that. They need the little guys too,
Mhm.
because we had this amazing group of people come out 2 years ago to our race, and there was a team of 169 people,
Nice.
huge team. One had ran an OCR before. One, it was this gym, and I swear this guy's like some kind of Buddhist god or something. I don't know. These people will do whatever he tells them to do, and he's like, sign up for this. And out of all those people that came and ran our race, about 30 of them fell in love with it and decided to keep training and do a Spartan race.
Mhm.
And it was funny because they were training and training so hard to get their Spartan race in. And I was like, I want you to come back and tell me what you thought about how hard our race was versus how hard the Spartan race was. So, and they were like, we probably overtrained.
A lot of people do because they see the Spartan race and they think of like, oh my gosh, it's so bad. Because I've had so
Yeah.
many friends that'll do the local ones and they're like, oh yeah, this is great. This is fun. Let's do it. No, I ain't doing a Spartan.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's too
I
tough.
mean,
I'm like, okay.
we have obstacles that we've been told were too hard to take to OCRWC. So there's that.
Yeah. And that's it. A lot of people don't think some of the local ones can be really tough because I think what it is too, like when, especially if you are one of the ones that goes to the Spartans, the Tough Mudders and all that, you get so used to the same obstacles over and over again. You know how to
Mhm.
train for those obstacles.
Yep.
So I've trained specifically to do monkey bars. I've trained specifically to do this. And now all of a sudden I go and do your rig and like, hey, there's a lachey in the middle. And I'm like, yeah, I haven't trained for that.
Yeah.
A lachey? Like Nick Lachey?
How do you spell
How do you do this?
that?
Yeah. How do you do this? So and I
Yeah.
think that's what's really cool on the local ones. Like I said, with the innovative, where all of a sudden it's like you look at it and you're like, I haven't trained for this. How do I do this? And that's what's amazing, where I've done, I mean, I've done over 60 Spartans.
Yeah.
So I mean, and not to sound bad, they haven't had a new obstacle in what, 5 years?
Yep.
So, I mean, I know all their obstacles. I know how to do them, but then all of a sudden I go to like yours. And like I said, I mean, all of a sudden when you say Lachey and I've talked to other people that done yours and some of the other ones are in those areas and they're like, oh yeah. And it has this big Lachey. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know how I have enough problems reaching out, trying to grab the next bar in a monkey bar. I mean, you want me to now fly? This guy doesn't fly.
That is more mental than anything, in all honesty. I mean, ours was 5 feet. It wasn't a big one.
Yeah.
But obstacle innovation is definitely something that the industry needs more and more of. I'll tell you who's killing it, and I'll tell you hands down, they're killing it over us, is Warwick.
I've heard they're good.
Those guys are amazing.
They're up in Canada, right?
Nope, they're
No.
in Thurman, Ohio.
Thurman, Ohio. Okay.
Yeah. And they are absolutely killing it on obstacle innovations. I mean,
think I had them on an episode. Yeah.
They're ex-military, and Jake is like Jason, like he's like, don't you dare point that camera at me, kind of thing, But they're just so smart, and when it comes to these obstacles they get so fired up about it. And those guys have a permanent course up there, and they get to work on it year round. I'm a little jealous, but yeah, I mean, that's one that I would absolutely hands down tell you, if you can only do one race this year, Warx is the one you have to get to, because it is so freaking amazing.
And I've heard of a couple ones like that. I mean, and that one, I think that one I have talked to them before. And I mean, it was one of those ones I'm like, I want it. I've never wanted to go to Ohio in my life, but I do now. And that's it. Like, really, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I have a goal in my life. At some point, I want to do a race, whether it be a 5K, just a stupid little 5K, or do an obstacle course or whatever in every single state.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the only reason I'd want to go to Ohio. There's nothing else in Ohio. I mean, sorry for all the listeners in Ohio, but
yeah, you would think that, but we spent 3.5 weeks in Ohio this year. We called it the Tour de Ohio. We went up and did Indian Mud Run. We went up and did Warx. We went up and built our course. And then, of course, we spent some time up there with Troy and Sandy. And we took our kids for one of those weeks. And we went to the beach on Lake Erie, and went to Put-in Bay and Cedar Point, I think it is. Man, our kids loved it. Like that, they loved it. Want to go on vacation there. So that's what we're doing. We planned the race around a vacation. So it's really pretty cool up there at Put-in Bay and that area.
So you might have to, because that's my biggest problem. The big problem that I run into is most of the places when we travel, most people know this. My wife doesn't race. It's like, she's like, no, I ain't doing any of this. So every time we travel together and she gets a vacation. So that's why everyone's like, why do you go to Hawaii? Why do you go to Texas? Why do you go here? I'm like, because that's where she wants to go to vacation. So I'm like, hey, let's go to Ohio. And she's like, no.
So, I mean, Put-in Bay is a really cool little island that you have to take a ferry to. Mm-hmm. And it's like 70 or 80 restaurants and bars. You almost like, they have the bars that you see on the movies where you're sitting in the swing and it's all sand. They have every different thing you could think of. They have it. They even have one that looks like a circus tent. I think it's called the Roundhouse. It's definitely a party and shopping island. But and boating is big, jet skis, and the beach there is, my kids liked it more than the beach in Florida because there's no sand. And our youngest one has like a really sensitive skin, so the no sand situation, or not sand, but the salt, the salty parts, I guess it is the sand, but so they really enjoyed the beach there. And you can walk out 150 feet and it's still knee deep, but to them it's an ocean. So yeah, you might have to, or Chattanooga is a beautiful, beautiful place to visit too.
Yeah, there's a bunch of those I want to go do. So like I said, I want to go. That's my goal. Is it's what looking like. I don't know this year, because this year is probably going to be the big, move and everything else. But next year is going to be like, okay, and now I'm going to plan out my year is going to be planned out, like hitting races all over the East Coast, hopefully, and going to all the places I've talked to you and some of the other people that have great stuff over there. And I'm like, I want to go do this, but traveling from Washington over there, and it's just like, so,
Yeah.
because we do
And
like
what,
Hawaii every year, and I'm like, okay, now I think this year was the last year I was doing Hawaii, so we're gonna plan on, in fact, we weren't supposed to do Hawaii this last year, but because of a change in plans on something else, we were able to do it. So, because my wife loves heat, that's why we're going to Texas.
yeah. I see. I see. And travel, travel is outrageous, and the cost of racing can be outrageous. And we have, one thing that I don't think a lot of the public knows about is, we have an amazing volunteer program. If you can't afford to race, you send me a message and say, hey, I really want to get to this event. Now, don't be flying first class coming to the event, then tell me you can't afford a ticket, because I'm going to bust you on it. But, people who can't afford a ticket, I'll put them to work for an hour or 2 hours or whatever. I just want people to get on the race course.
Yeah.
And the more, because I'm just like so many others where OCR changed our lives. We all have a story. We're going through something, divorce or sobriety or, a hard change or a hard time or a huge weight loss. And it changed our life. And I just want to pull more and more people into the sport.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing, like we were talking about, the need for local and the bigger ones. The bigger ones need the locals, because the locals are the ones that get the people, like you were talking about. You have the group of 160 people that show up, and all of a sudden 30 of those people are like, oh, this is amazing. Now I want to do the big ones. Not realizing in some ways yours might even be harder than a Spartan, but the Spartan is that pedestal because everyone sees the videos, and it cracks me up because I do so many of this OCR things. When I teach classes, I'll use a lot of YouTube videos, and when I'll kick them on for the class, it's almost always the YouTube, commercials, almost always a Spartan or
Yeah.
top runner. And I'm like, well, you know what I look at all the time. So, but it's because I'm always looking at OCR stuff. But it's one of those things that, like I said, they go do that local. And a lot of times people do that. They'll all of a sudden, it'll be a local gym will be like, hey, there's this local race, or, hey, we want to go do this because we want to support, Habitat for Humanity, or we want to do this and everything else. And they go do it. And then all of a sudden it's like, wow, this was so much fun. Because that's what got me into it. I did the Gladiator Rock and Run 10 something years ago, where one of my group of friends are like, we're going to go do this, and you want to go? And I'm like, okay. And then I went out and did it, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, this was so much fun. And then I did a bunch of the locals. There was like the Hell Run, the Slime Run, a whole bunch of random ones that don't exist anymore. And then all of a sudden, I saw the ads, and I'm like, oh, what's this Spartan thing? Let's go do that.
Yeah.
Like I tell everyone, I don't do research. That's why I ended up doing the Montana Beast to start out my Spartan journey.
Oh God, that was a little crazy.
Yeah, on the Founders Weekend, that was a Founders race. So that was the one where we saw there's arguments on whether it was 22 or 24 mile beast.
Yeah,
It was brutal, but it's one of those. But that's what got me. It was that those small little locals that I just kept doing with friends and having fun with these local races until all of a sudden it's like, well, hey, let's go do this. And like you said, they need, the local races like you have and some of these other ones to keep the sport alive. Without you, it would be like MLB trying to go without Little League.
Right.
You take out the Little League and you take out all the little locals that feed up into the, the big guys, you lose the big guy.
Yeah. I always kind of giggle and say we're at Spartan's Farm League.
Yeah. It happens.
Oh goodness. Yep, that's us.
Yikes. Yeah. But I mean, I've seen your medal. That's the one thing I want to do. I've seen your shirt and your medals, and I want more. I want those.
Yes.
I want to go get. So
they are awesome. I love it.
And the fact that they're different for each one is what I love. So
yeah, and I'm super corny when it comes to theming our races. Of
makes
course,
it fun.
It does, and it's different, So April 1st will be very much military oriented, all military obstacles with a few of ours thrown in, but mainly all military obstacles. We're going to have an Army Weaver, a regulation Marine O course, and you're going to start in a mock aircraft carrier. It's really cool. Smoke bombs, carrying guns, the whole 9 yards. And then April 29th will be our traditional Phoenix. And then of course we get Swampy at the Black Swamp. Murder Creek is very crime show-ish, murder mystery, crime scene tape everywhere. The Chattanooga Mud Run. Chattanooga is known for the Chattanooga Choo Choo. So this year our design has a train driving through mud. And so it's going to be all train oriented. I might even wear a little conductor hat. You never know.
That's gonna be fun.
It is. I get into it and enjoy doing all this silly little stuff with it. And if one racer says, "Hey, that's cool," then that makes me happy.
Well, that's what's really nice a lot of times when you get stuff like that. Like for me, you know, we mentioned it. I mean, I don't mean to like sound like I'm crapping on the big guys, but it's the same metal everywhere. So you might get a different ribbon, but it's the same metal. So it's
Same
like
metal,
no
yeah.
matter where I do the race, it's like I can go look at my wall and look at the over 60 medals I have from Spartan, and I can tell you what year it was.
hmm
But other than that, I can't tell you like, oh, this was Seattle and this happened, or this was here
Yeah.
and this happened. But a lot of my other ones, I can go look at it and say, and you can bring up, and it's like one of those things. I still have the memories from every one of those. That's the one thing you can't take those from me. But the medals, when I have some of those other ones, I can grab some of the ones like some of my, the ones where I've done the marathons and stuff and pull that out and remember like this, I
Yeah.
worked my ass off to earn this one, that, I finally got a marathon in less than 5 hours and this was it. And this is the medal they handed me. And
Yep.
on the Spartan ones and a lot of those ones that it's the same medal and over again, I know what year I did it, but I can't say, oh, this is the time that I almost broke a hour on a sprint. I
Yep.
can't because
Exactly.
I don't know which one it was. I know it was one of these, but
Right.
but I can tell you it was Vegas where, I hit 1 hour and 23 seconds. I was so mad at myself, but 23 seconds, but
Oh.
and it was all the spear. I missed the spear for the first time in like 4 years. I was so mad at myself, but
Oh my God.
it's one of those things that, that's what I love about when you do stuff like you're talking about being the cheesy, that's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
It makes it fun because you put that extra little thing in it for me to remember.
Yep.
Like when
And
I'm doing it,
Kentucky's going to be bourbon and country,
oh,
bourbon
I'm there.
farm.
What you said, bourbon? I'm in.
Yes. Yep. Yep. So it's going to be very bourbon oriented.
Like shots at every obstacle.
Maybe. You never know.
I keep threatening everyone. One of these times I'm going to go do a race, and just for fun, I'm going to fill my camel back up with bourbon, and we're going to have some fun. So
I think I did my 40th birthday. We had 40 friends run the Rugged Maniac with us, and they had all brought, little airplane bottles. And I'm a cheap drunk. So about 3 of those in, I'm like, I can't do anymore because this is not
yeah, this
safe.
isn't safe. I'm going to fall off some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've threatened to do it, but and what's funny though is it's funny, like before I really started running though, I was one of those I probably would have. And now that I run and I'm more healthy, I'm like, yeah, that's too many calories. Like, do you have some like low sugar bourbon? I mean,
Yeah. Diet bourbon.
yeah, some diet bourbon. Yeah, that was one of the things that was surprised, and if some people were surprised. It's like for me, I used to like for years I drank a lot. I mean, not a lot. Like I wouldn't say I was an alcoholic, but it was like a bottle, like a half gallon a week.
hmm
Not like fall down drunk, but a couple drinks every night to calm down. But then when I started running more, all of a sudden it was like, I've had that half gallon for like 4 months. Because it's just like you don't want to wake up in the morning and go for a run when you feel like you have a hangover, and like just
Yeah.
dehydrated from the drinking and all that. So it does change things, but it's like one of those. Yeah, I have thought about it where I'm just kind of like one of these times just to celebrate. I'm going to go through one of these courses and just fill my camel back up with like whiskey and Coke and have some fun.
That'd be fun.
It would be. It'd be an interesting one. It would definitely make for an interesting race, but
Yeah, for sure. For
you'd
sure.
have to make it one that there's not a lot of climbing because I couldn't see like doing Bender or something like that.
Oh no.
If you, yeah.
Mm-mm. No, no way.
No. No. Definitely be interesting. Oh, see, and that's
I'm
one
not
of
a
the I miss the small races like yours that have that that little bit of, they don't need all the big fancy. And that's what bugs me, I think, with some of the big box cutter. They have all the big fancy tents and all the big fancy this and the big fancy that. And I'm like, no, make it more fun.
Yeah, we got a $300 blow up finish line. That's what we got
Whatever works. I mean, it's
from
like,
Amazon, nonetheless.
it's like whatever works. It doesn't matter. Like all that stuff to me doesn't matter. It's the crowd. It's the
Mhm.
people. I've been to, races that, it looked like a 2-year-old made the, the finish line, but everybody was having a blast and it was so much fun. And I'm like, I would so much rather do that.
Right. Absolutely. And, would we love to have a 52-foot trailer full of trussing?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Who wouldn't? But, I don't currently have $500,000 to invest in it, nor am I going to until our company grows to the point that we can. I don't want to be Starbucks, I don't want to be popping up on every corner and then a few years later shutting down, because of the rapid growth isn't always great.
Yeah. And that's one of those things. It's one of those things, though. It's like also when you're still at that level that you're at, and you can get to a point where you're making more money at that level. But I mean, being at that level, the heart is still there.
Yeah.
And that's where I think some of the bigger ones, you hit a certain point where it becomes more about the business than it does about the OCRs and about the people.
Yeah. I had probably ran 40 Spartans before I even realized Spartan had an on-site race director and had heard their name.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think for me, it's I met them early because I was big and took a long time. So they usually swept and caught up to me. So
that's great. But
because a lot of
yeah,
times it was the race director was the one that I met the most was Steve Hammond, and he was usually the sweeper. So I met him like the first time because he swept one of the races where we had multiple injuries, all that kind of stuff, but we kept going. And
yeah.
it was Montana. It took us over 12 hours because of
I,
injuries
th-
and stuff.
I think here, Missy, I don't think she's with Spartan anymore, was a race director. And then I don't think Garfield's a race director. I think he's more of was a course designer and course engineer. And now I think he might be a head honcho or something. He's a
Yeah, I
big
don't know
dude
what he
now.
does, but he looks all fancy and stuff with all of his, cigars.
Yes, yes. And then there was Dario. I don't think Dario is with Spartan anymore either, but I mean, but it took a long time, and I was an ambassador,
Mhm.
before I even learned, any of the staff's names or met any of the staff or anything like that. So, while that is necessary when you have 8,000 people,
Yes.
I get that, but we're not there. We're not. Our Chattanooga event will have a couple thousand people, but none of our other events have grown to that. So, and even at Chattanooga, I'm the one that says 3, 2, 1, go. I'm out there on the start line. I'm inviting the pledge, asking everybody to stand. And so it's still a very personal experience for me.
And like I said, you can see that when I talk to you, and then other people I've talked to about your races, and I mean it's still the heart is there, and that's what's amazing is that you can feel that when you go to a race,
Right.
when there's a heart there, or when it just you start getting that feeling where it's just like another churned out. Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. Off the assembly line, which once again, nothing wrong with. I mean, I still go and do them. I still love doing them, but it's a different feeling. There's definitely a
Yeah.
different feeling when you hit those ones that you can tell it's a labor of love, and they're not doing it just for the money.
Right.
They're doing it. You're doing it because you love doing it. If you were doing it for the money, I'm sure you would have found something better to do. But
Absolutely. A long time ago.
I mean, eventually, I honestly believe you're going to get there, but it takes a while, and that's one of
It
those things.
does.
I mean, it's a labor of love, and it takes a little while. You got to push your way through it and get there. And I think you're definitely going to be, in a few years, we're going to hear about Phoenix Race up there in the ranks with some of the, with these other ones, which I think you're really close to getting there. And that's one of the things I can't wait to see. But I think, you know, for you, it's still going to be the love will still be there.
Right. Yes. I mean, if it wasn't a passion, we wouldn't have ever even started, much less kept going through. So 2021 was amazing for
Mm.
us. 2022 was not. You know, gas was $5.50 a gallon down here. You know, nobody's traveling when gas is so freaking expensive. You're going to feed your family before you come to an event. I'm
Mhm.
going to. You know, I totally get that. So, you know, I think that this year, now that the economy has somewhat ish recovered from COVID, you know, I'm seeing all this jazz about eggs. So I'm not sure it's going to be a whole lot of rapid recovery, but you know, maybe this year will be a better year than last year and closer to what 2021 was for us. And you know, we'll just have to see. And
Yeah.
as long as we have the freaking awesome volunteers that keep coming out and the awesome racers that keep racing with us, we'll keep going.
Yeah. Well, as long as you're still around and we're still around, I'll keep promoting you. So,
Love it.
like I said, I definitely want to get out there and do one. That's one thing that drives me nuts. I've never been able to make it out there and do it. But, you know, the farthest east I've actually gone for a race is Texas. So, and mainly
I think
Texas because my wife wanted to go look at houses. But
I think Boggs is coming to Georgia.
I think so.
Yeah, you could come to Georgia. That's
I want to, but like I said, that's the big thing we're looking at now because of all of the stuff for like, you know, the move and everything like that. It's still everything's focusing on that. I have one race I've signed up for this year, and it's
Yeah.
because I do it every year, and that's up here. You know, it's a 24-hour endurance event that I love doing every year. You know, other than that, I haven't even committed to any other race but that one.
Well, there's so many of us between, so that race is between myself and Joey.
Mhm.
So there are so many of us between here and Joey that we can find somewhere for you to crash.
Right. I'm sure. I mean, we would definitely find a place. So I
Yeah.
definitely want to, you know, and that's one thing, like I said, I'm looking forward to once I'd be down there. I mean, it's so much easier to get to all those places from, you know, because we'll be closer to Houston. So it's the east side of the state. So it'll be
Yeah.
closer to get to a lot of those places where I can, in some cases, probably just drive up, you know.
Right.
So which will be
That'll be awesome.
so nice to go try some of these ones that I keep seeing all over the place. So, and I keep seeing all the, you know, all of yours and, you know, all the other different brands out there that I'm like, I want to go try those, but they don't come up here because it's expensive to get here. And then
Yeah.
the biggest problem I've seen with most time in Washington is why a lot of races don't come up here. They'll schedule something. Nobody in Washington signs up for anything until the week before.
Oh, that's everywhere.
So a lot of places have thought about coming up here, but then all of a sudden it's like nobody's signing up and then they cancel it. So
Mhm.
there's been a couple, like 4 or 5 race brands that have done that. They've set one up and then all of a sudden, like 2 months before, they're not getting any signups, so they just cancel it.
Yeah. I
And it's
understand
like,
that.
I understand it. It's
And there's
expensive to
been
get.
there's been a few I probably should have canceled.
Yeah.
But I ran my big mouth. I am the no cancellation race director. So I've stuck to my guns.
That's good. That's good. That means, you know, that shows your integrity and people, you know, will hopefully, you know, keep coming out for that. So
That's
I
right.
like I said, I can't wait to get out there. And I mean, anybody who lives in anywhere near any of these or can travel to them, go.
Thank you.
So
We love it.
right on. Well, we're hitting that hour mark, so I should probably let you go, but we
All
definitely
right.
need to do this again soon and get you, you know,
Yeah.
definitely get your name out there, get your brand, you know, your brand out there and get some people out there to your races.
Thank you.
All right. Well, it's been
Hope
good
you
talking
can get
to you.
out east.
I'm hoping soon. All
It's
right.
been fun. Thank
All right.
you.
Yep. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the BeastNet podcast. If you haven't done it yet, find us on Facebook, like and share the podcast. Give us a review on iTunes or Spotify. All these things will help to expand the show in the future. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear.